Welcome to Money and Meaning, a podcast where we connect with people around the world who are working to unlock the power of markets for impact. I'm Sarah Sterling, Vice President of Programming and Convening of SOCAP Global. This podcast series is hosted by SOCAP Global and the Sorensen Impact Institute. SOCAP Global convenes the largest and most diverse community in impact through live and digital experiences that educate, spur conversation, and inspire investment in positive impact. We work under the leadership of the Sorensen Impact Institute, which helps organizations achieve their impact vision. The Institute is proudly housed at the University of Utah's David Eccles School of Business. Each episode of Money and Meaning features stories of amazing people who are leveraging the power of capital markets for the betterment of people and planet in a just and sustainable way. In this episode of Money and Meaning, members of the SOCAP team share details on the move of SOCAP's flagship conference from San Francisco to Chicago in 2026. The team discusses the strategic reasons behind the move, including the Midwest's strong institutions aligned with SOCAP's mission. The region is home to leading innovations in impact finance, climate solutions, and community investment, as well as key partners like the MacArthur Foundation and Chicago Community Trust. Tune in to learn more about this exciting next chapter.
Okay, so welcome everybody. This is Robert Munson. I'm President and CEO of SOCAP Global. And I don't know if you can hear any of the street noises behind me, but I'm in a special place right now outside of my normal office in Salt Lake City and in San Francisco. And instead, I am in the great city of Chicago because of today's announcement, where we have decided to move SOCAP's 2026 and 2027 conference, flagship conference, to the Chicagoland area. So we will be right here in Chicago in October of 2026 to hold our annual flagship convening. And this is the first time in 18 years or so that SOCAP has done its primary convening outside of San Francisco. So we'll talk about why the temporary move. We'll talk about when we're going to be going back to San Francisco because it's part of our DNA. It's where we were born. It's where we will return. And of course, why we are so excited to move into Chicago and really broader into the American Midwest. If you're in our space, in the impact investing space and philanthropy, and capital for good, generally, you know how much is happening in the American Midwest. You know how much is happening in Chicago. You know all about the amazing foundations and institutions and family offices and financial institutions and entrepreneurs and community work and CDFIs that are happening all in this area. And if you don't know, that's why we're going, because we want to amplify and highlight all of the amazing work that's happening here. As we all kind of fly from coast to coast and around the world, it felt a little bit like, man, maybe we should stop in Chicago because we keep working with amazing organizations doing amazing things there. And they are leaders in this space on a global level here in the Midwest and all of the areas in the Midwest, not just Chicago. And so that's why we're here. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But for SOCAP, this is a big evolution for us. We're super excited about it. We do see this as an evolution, not a change. It's just us growing with the field, moving with the field, continuing to do what we do, which is convene people, convene opportunities, and highlight the kind of work that we want to see in the world. So that's the big announcement today. We are moving to Chicago for 2026 and 2027, and we just couldn't be more excited. So I want to hand it over Tova Lobatz, who is our Chief Operating Officer, who also runs our strategic partnerships and has been with us now for over 3 years. Tova, are you as excited as I am about this?
Yeah, Robert, thank you. I'm super excited. I think that this move is really showcasing a lot about where the whole field is moving, and it's more into the mainstream. It's no longer a niche movement, and we see that Chicago has a lot of a deep financial ecosystem, and as you mentioned, powerful philanthropic community. So it's a great place for us to highlight, and SOCAP is evolving to meet this moment. And Chicago is a platform to do that. So with real world solutions that tackle all of the things that we bring to SOCAP and across sectors, climate, housing, workforce, I'm super excited to be able to be in Chicago to highlight what they're doing and how it can be used on a global scale.
And we have some great partners here who have been great partners of ours for a really long time. I think you got to start with the MacArthur Foundation, who is just a cornerstone of the SOCAP event. And they were our first phone call when we started thinking about coming out to Chicago. The Chicago Community Trust, another amazing new partner, which we're excited about, Tova. So I know there's just from the partnership landscape, and we use the word partner, not sponsor specifically, because we're all in this work together. And the work that our partners here in Chicago and the Midwest are doing, and we're reaching out to all of them right now, is super exciting. So I know you're excited about that too.
Yeah, I think that the partnerships that will evolve and the opportunities for our existing partners will be really exciting. I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth and for showcasing different work. I know that the last year we've talked to a lot of different foundations and partners and family offices, and it seems to be that there's a lot of capital being deployed and there's policy moving, and Chicago is an exciting place for investors around the country and the world to be able to see kind of what they're doing and showcase. So I know that for attendees and for our partners and sponsors, I think Chicago will be an exciting place for us to reconvene at this year.
And of course, Chicago is another great American city, just like our longtime home of San Francisco. And both are leaders in this field. Both are cornerstones in impact investing. There's innovation going on in both of those places, and yet they're very, very different places. And so we wanted to make sure that not only are we listening and learning from our partners on the ground in the Midwest and Chicago, but we also were bringing in people who live here to work with us. And so I want to introduce Kristen Bogan, who has joined us here to help with our move to Chicago. Kristen, you are not a native Chicagoan.
Correct.
But you've been here 30 years.
Correct.
So we're going to count it.
Yes.
First of all, welcome to SOCAP. We're so glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then maybe what SOCAP is bringing that you see as a local here to Chicago in the area.
Sure. Thanks, Robert. I am so excited that SOCAP, so as much as you've heard from both Robert and Tova, the excitement of bringing SOCAP here, I just can exponentially raise that. The thought of SOCAP coming to the Midwest, but specifically Chicago, where there have been so many firsts that have happened, is great. The fact that we are in the middle of the Midwest, I think it's a little bit, there's a lot of different reasons for why it is that impact is happening here throughout the Midwest, but especially here in Chicago. And sometimes it's not as coalesced as you might think. And so being able to have SOCAP come, where it's a global convening of people from all over the world, but really highlighting what is happening and showcasing what is happening here in Chicago, is going to be a boon, not only for all of the disparate parts that are focused on impact, but also really having people be able to demonstrate how proud they are about what is happening here. And sometimes, especially in the Midwest, people don't necessarily talk highly about what it is that they're doing, but this is a way for them to brag a little bit. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's good. And we're learning a lot, not being from here, about the approach that the folks here in Chicago and around the Midwest have, not only toward impact and philanthropy, but also, to your point, even communicating the work. And so a lot of what we're trying to do in this process is learn the best possible posture for SOCAP to come into Chicago. We're not trying to recreate SOCAP San Francisco and Chicago. Those are two very, very different regions. And we want to reflect so much of what's happening here, knowing that there's a similar mindset all over the globe of people who can immediately attach themselves to the kind of work that's happening here in Chicago, learn from it, help replicate it around the world. And of course, that's coming from after 18 years in San Francisco. And so we don't want to talk necessarily all about Chicago and neglect everything that San Francisco has meant to us as a company. But that sounds, I don't know, that sounds kind of impersonal. It's really as human beings, as people who have committed our careers to this, to impact, to positive impact in the world, to using capital for good in the world. San Francisco is where we were born. It is a part of our DNA. It helps, I think, it helps how we see the world in terms of SOCAP having helped create this movement called Impact. And so Sarah Sterling, our Vice President of Content, I want to maybe ask you to join me now when it comes to San Francisco. You've been a part of SOCAP longer than I have, and you have a lot of memories of the old times, so to speak, in SF. What are your thoughts about this temporary move and how we continue to honor San Francisco even as we maybe change the tenor a little bit of the conference in Chicago?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And, especially as someone coming from, quote unquote, the olden days of SOCAP, I am actually very, very excited for this move. I think that it is definitely bittersweet, as all evolutions and changes and next chapters are. I was there during the Fort Mason days with the picnic tables and the huge expo halls right on the bay. The Blue Angels practicing over us during the closing ceremony. And so, we've moved a little bit as SOCAP in our history within the city, and we've had other events in the past, outside of California even, but this is a really intentional move. I think that's something that we're all trying to really emphasize in this podcast, that this is something we've thought really deeply about, and as we do with all of our moves, right? So moving from Fort Mason was a very intentional move to Yerba Buena Center and the Gardens. Even last year, we made a lot of changes to having all content in one building, and trying to maintain sort of that similar flow with Fort Mason. And all of that thinking and planning and intentionality is going into this move to Chicago to not only uplift what's happening there, with my lens, obviously, with content in the fellowship program, but also maintaining that focus and commitment to our national and global audiences as well, who are just as important as part of our community, and especially when it comes to content, showcasing those underrepresented voices from all over the globe. But I think this really does give us a unique chance for the first time in a very long time to see what is happening specifically in downtown Chicago, in Chicago itself, in the Midwest, and have the opportunity to invite new voices and showcase new actors and players, as well as longstanding partners who are actually based in the downtown area. And we're playing with a lot of that for, SOCAP Open processes and the different types and styles of content that we're hoping to see. But I think this is just part of a natural flow for us as SOCAP because, as Robert, as you mentioned, we were sort of that original player in the convening space for focusing an actual conference and gathering people around this concept of impact investing and social entrepreneurship way back in 2008. And so we've, throughout our history, been very, very intentional around how we curate connections within our community, but also with other convenings, and learning from others in the field. And this also goes into our fellowship program that we've been creating and amplifying since 2022, really, and we'll continue to have that opportunity for partner cohorts this year as well, for those who really want to amplify underrepresented fund managers and social entrepreneurs, to bring cohorts to SOCAP. We'd love to see a local cohort, so just that shout out as well for those who are listening in. But, the main foundation of SOCAP stays the same. I think that's really important to just keep reiterating throughout this is like SOCAP Open, which is how we get community voices represented on the agenda at SOCAP, will continue to be part of our process. This is just a really great opportunity for us to spotlight new actors and players and uplift, local and regional organizations and work on a global stage. And I think that's really integral to SOCAP's role in the convening ecosystem since the very beginning, is really taking what's happening on a local level and moving it up and uplifting and spotlighting it on our global stage so that we can learn from actors and players across the globe.
What's interesting too, Sarah, is as I hear you talking about San Francisco, I'm reminded of while these are two very different cities, there's so much in common between SF and Chicago. Objectively, these are two of the most beautiful cities on the planet. I love both cities dearly. Great food, beautiful cities, strong, long histories within this space. Strong financial institutions. And then I think the thing that's most exciting is just the constant innovation, recognizing opportunities, recognizing needs, and innovating to combine those opportunities and to answer some of those needs. Sarah and I, we were talking this morning that Chicago, the American Midwest, you guys just get things done.
Yep.
Chicago gets things done.
For sure.
And there's just so much to learn from an impact perspective on that. It aligns so much with our ethos in terms of being practical and finding solutions to challenges. And of course, Sarah, you have the primary responsibility of designing the content, the programming, the conversations, the speeches, all of the things that come into play at SOCAP. How do you even start with a place as big as Chicago regionally, and then knowing this, of course, is a global conference? So we have this regional learnings that we want to apply globally. And, it just seems like a lot to design, but you are the master at it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and I think, Robert, this again goes into the excitement of this new opportunity. I mean, every year SOCAP is different, which is why I think I have probably the best, I have the best job in the entire world, getting to reimagine and redesign something in a new way every single year, no matter where we are. But Chicago itself, I've only been for work in the past, so I'm actually planning myself to run the Chicago Half Marathon in May to just have some fun in the city and really get to know local actors and players. I can't wait to meet up with Kristen and just see what's happening on the ground there. We've also been, even last year, toying around with different concepts for content to really spotlight again the local actors and players in downtown Chicago. And last year, if anyone remembers and was on the walking tour in San Francisco, we did do a historical walking tour of Filipino culture in San Francisco. And that was sort of us toying around with how do we get people outside of a static building space, even though we still want to try and maintain all content in one building, but we want to really get the people out into the city. I don't know how many times I've heard people who go to conferences and other events and they go and travel all over the world and never actually get to see anywhere where they've been. It's such a missed opportunity to be able to really get the look and feel of the culture and the food and the sounds and sights of a place. And so we're really thinking about that very intentionally with this move to Chicago and anywhere else we might go in the future, but to really highlight and get people out and about within Chicago. I think too, this is an opportunity to really have voices and participants come to SOCAP who might not have had the opportunity to be able to participate in the past because we were on the West Coast. And so the hope really with this move is how can we, by being more in the middle, open opportunities for people to be able to come and have their voices heard and be connected. I think still we're definitely going to maintain that foundation of intentionally trying to connect our community members with one another as much as possible. And so we started that a lot with a lot of the Connections, Capital Connections Day on Monday, but really amplifying that to extend into all 3 days with obviously the same blend of panels, fireside chats, workshops, showcases for entrepreneurs and fund managers, but really looking at different structures and different ways in which we can do that with content. But I'm just so excited to explore and learn more from others. And hopefully those listening to this podcast will reach out and contact me, contact the content team, contact Tova for partnerships so that we can really make this a really incredible year as we try to do for each and every year.
And Sarah, you and I and Tova and Kristen have, I think the thing that's gotten me most excited has been the opportunities we've had to think about, to dream about what we can do here. And getting people out in the city is a big, big part of that. We're talking with our partners now about, how can we literally get people out to the projects themselves that are happening around the city, the community projects, the financial projects and modeling that are happening on the ground in different places, the ideas that different foundations have. How can we get people there and not necessarily in one central place for the entirety of a conference? And Chicago is just an amazing city to explore. I mentioned the food, I think. I'm going to keep mentioning the food. Our good friend Bob Tucker, who is with the Chicago Community Loan Fund, is apparently a former food critic here in Chicago. So that's a really good person to know. So I'm excited to further explore the city. I think our audiences are going to be excited to do that. And like you said, with this central location, Sarah, we can, hopefully see and invite even more new audience members to SOCAP who maybe have wanted to come in the past, but it's quite a trek. If you live on the East Coast here in the States and in some areas globally, it can be very difficult to get out to the West Coast. And so we think this will provide some accessibility to new audiences. And then Tova, I know you've had a lot of conversations with some of our longstanding partners and new partners. Tell us what they're excited about and what you're hearing from them.
Yes, we're very excited with the conversations we've been having with other partners, such as the Chicago Community Loan Fund that Robert mentioned and Bob Tucker. The CDFIs in Chicago are doing incredible work all around the city. So I think that's a really exciting conversation that we want to have at SOCAP again this year. We've been working with MacArthur as well as the Chicago Community Trust. We're excited to be working with them this year. They sit at the center of Chicago's philanthropic and civic ecosystem. We are always committed to our national and global partners and attendees, and we will always be a platform where we are bringing innovative and mission-aligned work. So highlighting Chicago is an exciting time, and we're going to be having even richer and more dynamic conversations that will be showcased there and on a global scale.
Yeah, it's an amazing platform, honestly, Chicago just as a community, and then the Midwest generally. And we are talking with partners all over the American Midwest, new partners, as well as our partners who have been with us for years now at SOCAP, who are all over the world. We're talking to 3 or 4 a day. The excitement is there from everyone to see this new opportunity in Chicago for SOCAP. Even as we take a couple of years away from San Francisco, Sarah, to your point, so much of what we have learned over the years in San Francisco is that the magic of SOCAP is in the people, always has been. I think it always will be. It's that shared vision and mission that we have in our work and our shared vision for the world and how we see capital and how we see leveraging that capital for the good of everyone, for all stakeholders involved, for people on the planet, and the many, many different ways that we get there from point A to point B. It's a huge spectrum of organizations that join SOCAP. And we remain the quote unquote big tent of impact and the largest impact convening in the world. And that full ecosystem approach gives us, I think, a vision of our field and those fields that work with us that's really, really unique. And it allows us to get out of our silos for 2 or 3 days and to work with people across the verticals of our various fields. We've seen so much growth in community development and place-based investing, philanthropy. The growth in our field has just been enormous. And Tova, to your point too, we are just knocking on the door of the mainstream. And a lot of this temporary shift over to Chicago reflects that shift. We want to be where things are happening all the time. And moving for a couple of years to Chicago helps us to do that. We think there are just tons of benefits for our attendees, for our partners, but most of all, the reason we're here, which is for the field, to grow the market for impact. That's what we do. That's why we do it. And we do that by connecting people. And so we're going to continue to rest in that. We're going to continue to focus our core efforts in connecting people, connecting innovations, and of course, ultimately moving capital to where it is needed most. And we think Chicago gives us an amazing opportunity to do that in a new way, with a new approach, but always with that core mission, those core values in mind. And we're so excited to be here. Like I said, I'm here in Chicago right now. We'll be here a lot. I don't know, Sarah, maybe I'll join you for that half marathon in May. We can run that together. And speaking of marathons, the marathon, let's get to a few details. The dates for SOCAP26 are October 12th through the 14th. And what's exciting about that is immediately after the Chicago Marathon, which means there's just a ton of stuff going on here in Chicago. Lots of people, lots of visitors. Everything will just be full of energy. And I cannot wait for that. I can't wait to be here in October to experience that time frame. But otherwise, we're going to have people from all over the world coming in. We're going to have yet another great SOCAP. This will be our 19th SOCAP, if I'm keeping count correctly, which is an amazing, amazing number. And Sarah, Tova, Kristen, any last thoughts on this exciting move to Chicago?
The only thing that I keep going back to is a quote that Dilla Thomas, who has become a Chicago historian, and he kind of went viral on TikTok, and he now conducts tours throughout the different neighborhoods of the city. His quote is, "Everything dope in America started in Chicago." And so I think that that's something that we can key off of SOCAP is coming here. There's a lot here happening, and everything dope in America comes from Chicago.
Good luck following that, Sarah or Tova.
I know, hard to follow that, but I just think that the overall energy is just super, super excited to see not only what people come up with for the SOCAP Open process, but also what potential partnerships that might come out of this. And obviously with my lens for content, this just opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for the type of content that we're going to see this year at SOCAP, and the engagements and the opportunities for new connections. So I just can't wait to get rolling on this.
Yeah, and everything dope happens in Chicago, and Chicago gets things done. And I think that is sort of what we're all excited to see and have our partners see and our attendees. And it's really exciting for our team. And we're really, really looking forward to showing everyone what we have in store and working with everyone to build a great year.
Well, thanks, everybody. And for our listeners in the SOCAP community, tickets are on sale right now, SOCAPglobal.com. The price of tickets remains the same exactly as it was last year. We're excited to keep doing that. We're excited to continue to offer real value for this full 3-day conference. I think we're still one of the lowest priced conferences out there, particularly of this size. And we want to do that in part to increase as much as possible the accessibility to SOCAP. Also, one of the reasons why Chicago is an exciting move for us because of its location. So SOCAPglobal.com. Go ahead and get your tickets now. They'll be at the lowest prices today that they will be this year. So get your tickets now, get your hotel rooms now. We cannot wait to see you in Chicago in October.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Money and Meaning. If you were inspired by the conversation and are interested in getting more involved with the SOCAP community, join us at the next SOCAP. Learn more and register at SOCAPglobal.com. Be sure to subscribe to Money and Meaning wherever you get your podcast to be notified of our next episode's release.